Do you still see my screen?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, you see the InDesign, right?
Yeah. All good.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna get started because it's 9:05. Yeah, so first, Salma, you missed this part. I'm gonna recommend that you like watch what I'm doing for the workshop and then like play with InDesign later on, and I'll send you the video link so you can refer back to it. Or else I'm afraid that you might get lost like with the two screens.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, just my recommendation. So I'm gonna show you guys like basically how to get around in InDesign, and then I'm gonna open up the template and then do stuff with that. So let's do, let's go to, let's do print. That's better. And then I want pixels. You can also do inches or whatever unit you want to work in. And then you can set your margins, and I'll show you later how that translates to your document. So I want to do 30. And this is this button here tells you that I can change these values. But if I click on this, so it's linked, they're all going to stay the same. So I change this and they all change. And then bleed and slug are for if you want to get your document professionally printed, because it'll let you like make images extend to the edge of your page. But if you're using like a home printer or just doing things for web, it won't really matter. So I'm just going to leave everything at 0. So that's your document. There's the margins here that are in purple and pink. And some hotkeys that I want to show you guys would be, if you're using a mouse, you can scroll up and down with the scroll wheel. If you press Control or Command and you scroll, you can scroll sideways. And then if you hit Alt and scroll, you'll zoom in and out. And then Control Z is undo, like everywhere else. But if you want to redo something, it's Control Shift Z, not Control Y, like in other programs. Let's say we have a bunch of different objects. There's these two selection tools and they're different. So the black selection tool is going to let you move things around and resize the bounding box of objects. And the white one, direct selection tool, and hotkey is V, hotkey is A for direct selection. You can still move things around, but now you can take control of control points or anchor points and move those around. Yeah, I think for the most part, I use V unless I gotta change like curves and stuff, but I don't really use those personally. If you want to select multiple objects, you want to hit Shift, or you can also drag, and anything that's in this dragged box is going to be selected, and then you can also deselect by holding Shift. Oh, another useful thing would be Alt. So if I'm about to drag this and I hit Alt, now there's two little cursors, and that means it's going to be copied. So you can make quick copies with that. Yeah, so that's that. Another important thing with InDesign is if you put photos, oh, actually, before we get to that, I'm going to change my workspace to be, if you go to Windows and then Workspace, Advanced. I like working in this mode because it gives you like the toolbar up here and then you have a bunch of different windows that are docked. So I don't have to like go into here to find the page menu. So yeah, these are the pages and layers that I'll get into later. But to place things, which just means like getting an image from somewhere else and then bringing it in to my document. So let's say I want to put this image in. So I went to File and Place, or Control D is your hotkey. Let's say I want that. So I do Open. So now it's going to be in my cursor, and I can place it wherever I want. So if I click it, it'll just appear regular size. So that's how big it is. But let's say, so I did Control Z and it got rid of it and put it back in my cursor. Let's say I only wanted it to be this big. Then it'll make a frame for you and then put it in there. I say frame because in InDesign, frames and photos are different. So here I'm going to make a frame. And it's empty, right? And here, this is going to be a frame with a photo in it. So I can move the image and not the frame, and it like basically crops it automatically for you, but the frame stays where it is if I click and drag the circle. Right, and then if I click and drag outside the circle, it'll move the whole thing. And that's important because let's say I have a template with this box on it. I can just drag and drop into the frame, and then it'll keep this size constant, and then your image is going to be inside the frame. So since the frame and the image are different sizes, I would want to double click on it to be able to adjust the image and then center it however you want in your frame. You can also have this selected, and there are buttons that let you, okay, this isn't my computer because I don't have Creative Cloud with MIT. So this is my partner's computer. And I don't know where the button is to fit your content. There we go. So if you go to, sorry about that, objects and then fitting, you can fit content to frame or fit framed content. So let's say I just want to shrink down my photo to become the size of the frame. I can either do it, I can either fill it proportionally or I can fit it. So if I do fill, it'll become as big as possible and still like fill up the frame completely. But if I do fit content proportionally, it's going to leave a white gap, but you can see the whole image now. So depending on what you want, you can play with that. You can also just make it however big you want and then center it. Let's say you just wanted this to show and you didn't care if there was white space. You can do that. Yeah. Oh, also, there's a bunch of different views. Wait, did that make sense with the frames and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There's a bunch of different views here. So if your image isn't looking as sharp as you think it should be, you can go to display performance and then go to high quality display. And now it looks really nice. But you can also, that'll like slow your computer down if you don't have a great processor. But you can also do overprint preview, which gets rid of your frames and it makes your images nicer. So it was Control-Alt-Shift-Y. So this is the preview, and this is the lower quality version. So when you like export to a PDF or when you print it, it's gonna look like this. Yeah. Oh, also, when you put images into InDesign, you don't actually embed the image into your document. It's going to be like, it's basically a thumbnail that points to the file on your computer. So what that means is I tell InDesign that this photo is located here. So this is the links panel, that it's located here. So if I were to go here and then let's say I moved it, right? It's going to be sad because it's missing. This photo doesn't exist here anymore. So if it's telling you that links are missing, you gotta get your files reorganized. And then you can retell it to go look somewhere else for the photos. So I put it in desktop. And I can just tell it where it is. There's too many things here. But yeah, I'm gonna delete it for now. InDesign is also nice because you can, let's say I wanted to edit this photo in Photoshop, you can right click and go to edit with, and you can open Photoshop right from InDesign. And then after you're done, you just save it and close Photoshop, and then it'll update this automatically. Does that make sense? Okay. So I'm gonna bring this back. Okay. Okay, so if you want to put text, there's this button for text. Shortcut is T. And now, do you see this cursor changing from black to white? So when it changes to white, that means I'm about close to this margin line, and it's gonna start making that box at the margin line. And same thing for here. If that cursor appears, it means it's gonna be snapped to the margin line. So now I have my text frame. It's gonna be here, and you can change your font size settings, all of that stuff. And there's also paragraph settings for spacing. You can also fill it with placeholder text, which is gonna give it your lorem ipsum. And then you can play with, like, let's say the kerning. You can change, like, so if you hold Alt and use your arrow keys, you can individually kern each letter. So let's say you have like a title and you want it to be perfect. That's how you can manually configure that. And
Well, you said you can individually what?
kerning is like the space in between each character. So let's say we did optical, like some of this might look a little funky, like this space looks a little small compared to here. So then I can hold Alt and use my arrow keys to space it apart a little.
Okay, makes sense.
Do you see how it's moving?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you can also save certain settings. So let's say I want this to be my body text. I can save these settings exactly into a character style. So I save that to body text. So now when I make new text box here and have that, if I want it to be the same settings as the text below, I can just click this and it'll change to match with this style. And I think that's going to be really useful if you have a bunch of different headers or title pages and you want them to be consistent across the whole document.
Wait, I think I missed which button was it?
So if I'm in text,
Yeah.
so I can now edit and this is selected, there's this little A.
Oh, okay. I think I just missed that button. Cool.
Yeah.
Great.
So I can create a new style and there's a bunch of formatting settings that you can go through. But I think this is probably where the important things are going to be.
Mhm.
So let's make that chiller.
Oh man.
And now my text looks like that.
Got it. Thanks.
All right, so now I'm gonna add some new pages. So this is the pages panel, and I'm gonna, oh, sorry, that was right click, insert pages. And then I can add however many pages I want, let's say 13. So now there are a bunch of spreads, which means like 2 facing pages. Then if you don't want that, you can change that document setup. Yeah, facing pages. So if you uncheck this, you won't have the facing pages. But yeah. So now that I have all these pages, and I wanna, let's say I wanna add like a bunch of photos, but oh, also I'm gonna do Control Alt Shift U, Y, Control Alt Shift Y, and make the frame show up again. So now I know that's where I wanted the photos to go. But before I do that, I probably want to make guides. And what that means is, so let me just show you what that looks like. So you can make these blue lines and objects will just snap to it so let's say I have 3 and 3 rows and columns, and then the gutter just means the spacing in between. So that's the amount of space you'll have between 2 photos. So I did that, and now I can just snap all of my photos to these guides, right? And then I can just make as many as I want. The reason why this middle column is bigger is because I aligned the column sizes to the page and not the margins. So now it's counting like from here to here as one column, and then here to here as the next column of the same size, which is fine. And I can just have an array of photos just like that. And you can also make these guidelines easily just by dragging down from the ruler at the top. So I click and drag from this ruler and I get this line, and then I can just place it wherever I want. Let's say there. If you look here, there's also like dimensions that say where exactly this line is. And I can also move it around, but usually I wouldn't want my guides to move, because if I'm just like changing this and then I accidentally hit this and drag it, I don't want it to be out of place. So I'm gonna go to View, Grids and Guides, and then Lock Guides. You can also toggle Snap to Guides here, and also Smart Guides here. And what Smart Guides mean is, so right now I can only snap to guidelines and margin lines, but if I turn that on, oh, it is on. It shows me like relationships between different objects. So I have this here. Let's say I want these bottoms aligned, they'll snap it to each other. Or if I want these middles aligned, they'll snap it to each other. And if that's getting annoying, I can turn that off, and now it won't snap to each other. Only the guides, like that. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. Okay. Yeah, so next I'm gonna show you guys how to make master pages, which is like page templates. So if I click on, so before I was here, pages 2 and 3, if I click on this master page that's already there, it's blank right now, but this is a master page, and it's kind of confusing because everything else, the UI looks the same, but there's like nothing on it, and you can't scroll to your other pages, and that's because you're in this mode. So you gotta double click on the page that you want to go to if you want to exit master page mode. But from here, I can basically do that same thing. So layout, create guides. And fit to margins. And so if I go back to pages from here, let's go to a new page. So now this was the page I was working on before. And since master page A is applied to all of these, the changes are made. Like the changes that I made here are applied everywhere else. So now these guys are automatically going to be locked because they're controlled by these pages. So even if I have lock guides off, I can't move them. And I can also use this master page to add, there's a text box. Now, if I right click, I can insert special character, go to markers, and then do current page number. And that's going to give you whatever page this master is applied to, it's going to say that number. So then I'm going to copy this. I'm holding Alt to copy things and move it to the other side of the spread. And then I'm going to right justify it from here, align right. There we go. Now I'm going to go back to this page. And it's page 4. So it labels it page 4 and 5. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Great, thank you. Okay, so the last thing I'm gonna go over is layers. So just like in Photoshop or Illustrator, you're gonna have layers which help you like keep your things organized. So let's say I have like a bunch of photos. Can you see this, like the photos that I'm selecting?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, cool. So I'm gonna drag these photos onto here. This is just an alternate way of doing place. There's the little parentheses 3 means that I can now place 3 objects. So I'm just gonna make a frame here and another frame here and the last frame here, like that. So let's say I wanted to overlay text over that. So I'm gonna make this. So placeholder text. If this is on a layer that's separate from my photos, so these are on layer 2 and this is on layer 1, I can use this little box to select everything in that layer on this spread, but it won't select things on other spreads because spreads act independently. So let's say this is my working spread. If I select this, it's going to select these 3 images, but not this layer 2 object from this spread. And then I can use that to like change sizes or whatever. But let's say I put this here. Now you can't see it because the layer order means that layer 1 is going to be under layer 2. So everything in this layer hides under everything in this layer. So if I switch these by dragging, I can now make this show up. And I would probably want to make it readable and stuff, but yeah. It's also nice because if I had multiple text boxes, I'm going to label this text. I just double clicked on this to rename. Let's say I have this selected, and then I can just go into the text tool and change all of the text settings for the boxes that I have selected. So let's say I want everything to be 30 font. The changes all apply together, and then I'm gonna turn this into glyphs. No, I'm not. Sure, yeah. So now I can go back here, change sizes, whatever I want. Oh, and then with your text boxes, if my text is overflowing out of this box, it's gonna have this little plus, right? Because there's too much text. That means that I can click on this, and then I can either make a new text box that the text will flow into. So it's gonna go from here to here. So that's an output, and this is an import. And there's still more text. So I can click on this and click on this text box that already exists. And now the text is gonna flow from one to the other. So like that. Right, so if I made this small, the rest of the text is gonna go into here. And that's useful if you have like columns of lots of text that you wanna fit onto a page together. And that way you don't have to like manually cut everything after this and then manually paste it into the next text box. It'll do that for you. Does that make sense? Does anybody have questions? Okay.
Sorry, yeah, no questions. It makes sense.
All right. So I'm gonna open this. Okay, so sometimes if you like get random templates online, it's gonna tell you that there's no font because there's no font called Carla Regular and Carla Bold on my computer. So I can replace it with whatever other font I want to use. I'm just gonna pick one. And let's say I want this to be replaced with this. I can just click on that and then do change all. So now everything in the document that was Carla Regular is going to be this font now. And same thing here. I am not aligned. Okay. So this is what you get with when you download a portfolio or some type of template off of the internet, is you have a bunch of empty frames and then some text boxes. So you can see there's like guidelines here and there's frames and there's already margins for you. And if you want to change any of that, you want to okay, so since I can't change these guides, that means they were applied from a master page. So here, if I wanted to change any of this, it would be here. I can adjust it however I want. And I think this template also gives you a background color. So if you look really close, this is just regular white, and this is some random color with tiny values. I think that's just to make it easier to read. probably. But yeah, I can get rid of it if I want. And then go back here. Now it's going to be a white background. So I'm just going to go and, whoop. And I've pasted an image here. And, oh man, I've lost it. There we go. I guess I could play with it and make it fit, but I'll just leave it here. So we'll give it a title. Whoop. Put my name on it. And another thing to note is whoever made this portfolio didn't snap all of their frames to the guides that they've made, which is ridiculous. But I guess that's why you got to be careful of random templates that you find on the internet. So I could just go and manually change all of this if I wanted to. But so I'm gonna call these chair and title my different projects. Right. So now I can also go here, delete these, make an about page. Just like that. And then like have a blurb about myself or something here. Yeah, so instead of going off of like whatever is on here, I could also create my own. Did all of that make sense? Like using the stuff that was already on this template?
Yeah. So you drag
All
them.
right. Okay, so I'm gonna make a new master page. I'm gonna call this custom. Oh. Custom. And now I'm gonna create some guides. So you can also change the margin sizes on different master pages by going to layout and margins and columns. So now here I want it to be 30. And I clicked on the link to make them all 30 all at once. Yeah. And one column means that there's just one section, but if I did this, it would create these two columns for me as if they were margins. But you could also just create guides for that. And gutter just means the space between the two columns. So let's say I decreased my margin size and fit the guides to margins. And I have this. And now for this page, I wanted to apply these custom pages. So now I can drag. So now it's dragging both of these highlighted pages. And I could either apply to one or the other or both pages of the spread. And for some reason, these guides are here that weren't applied using a master page. And I can tell because I was able to delete them, but I can't change these. Right, so now I can use this grid to make all of your images like the same proportions. Like that. And then if I started this text box here, these would be aligned and it would look really nice. Like that. There's also like text here, so this text is sideways, right? So, and you can do that just by rotating it. Oh, and then if you hit shift while rotating, it'll snap to 45-degree increments. But for now, I'm just going to keep it like that. And this is also rotated, but so this is like rotated the other way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, all good.
All right. Yeah, so let's say I have like all of this text here, right? If I want to change the text color, all I have to do is just select all of it and go here, right? So this is going to change my color of the fill inside the text. But if I were to give it a color here, that's going to give it an outline. And that's useful if you have like really big title pages. Oh, so like here, let's say I want to give it a black outline. Now it's easier to read. I do not recommend making it look like this though, because it doesn't look very nice. But that's a way that you can make something easier to read is by giving it an outline. And you can get rid of that by clicking on this. So that just deletes, it makes the selection be nothing. And this is fill. And I can also make that nothing. Right. And what else? Oh, also, I only applied my custom page to this page. So these are still what they were before. So if I wanted to apply this to everything here, I can right click on my custom page and apply master to pages, and then I can just select 4 through, I don't know how many there are, 14. There we go. And now these all have the custom master page that I wanted to use. And if I were doing this with like a fresh document, all of these extra lines wouldn't be there, but they're here now. Yeah, so I like having a grid personally because if I had like a bunch of images as like a process sequence, so like just to show how I made something, I can just have them all be lined up according to the grid and then just place the images right after the other. So let's say I want to do these, so then I can do like that. I can center it however I want. And write captions. And then I would have like a final image here. Right. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, so now I'm going to show you guys how to export this. So you can export these files as PDFs. And I think that's the easiest way to export it. You can do like, if you do print and you have links, it might not really work. So you might want to export as PDF. But if you do print, it'll like convert all your colors to CYMK for you, which is nice. But you can also do something called package, which takes all of the images that you found in here and okay. And it makes copies of all the images for you so that you can send somebody the whole thing, including this InDesign file, and they'll still be able to look at all the images that you put in it. So here. So right now, these are all the images that are currently in this document. And if I were to open this, InDesign now knows where to find these files, even if like these original photos weren't on this computer, right? Yeah, but that basically like makes a really big folder. So if you just want to send your portfolio to someone, I would recommend exporting. And another important thing is that you might want to compress your document so that if you were to email it to someone, you don't want to send them like a 50 megabyte document. So you can like choose these different settings. I think I do. Yeah, I think I use this setting and go to like medium or maybe even low. And then if I export it, the file is going to be way smaller. Sure. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yep. Sorry.
Yeah, it does.
Okay. And with all of the hotkeys that I told you about really fast, if you just Google like InDesign shortcuts, it'll give you like all the important ones, like export and open and copy and stuff like that. Yeah, so I think since we have time, I'm gonna have you guys open InDesign on your computers and like play with it. And if you have questions, I can answer them for you. Does that sound good?
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks. Might have to head out
Great.
early, but I'll play around a little bit and see if there's anything.
Okay.
Let's see.
Also, before you guys do that, could you fill out this form that tells me like if I can do anything better? It's just a feedback form that you can fill out if you want.
Sure.
Cool.
So you would never recommend making anything in InDesign, right? It's mostly just for layout, and you should use other apps to make stuff and then import it.
You mean like drawings and stuff?
Yeah.
If you want to make something that's like quick and simple, you can use the pen tool and just like make simple curves and stuff. Which I will get more into if I do an Illustrator workshop, but I think for the most part, yeah, it's easiest to do it on Illustrator or whatever else you want to use. You can also do like rectangles, and if you click and hold, you can do ellipses like that.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I think I also need to head out. So, but thanks so much.
All right. Thank you. Are you in the online Makerspace Slack?
I don't think I am actually. If you could send me a link. Or
Yeah. Do you want to be added to it? No pressure if you don't want to.
I'll be interested. I don't
Okay,
have
cool.
much time. Corona's been tough, but I think I'd definitely like next semester maybe try to be around.
Okay. Great. I think I do have your email, so I'll send you the invite there.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yep. See you around.
Bye. Christos? I don't know if you're there, but yeah.
Hi.
Do you also want to be added to the online Makerspace?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's like yeah, it's just a Slack channel that you can use to share your projects or ask questions. There's a few mentors from the Project Manus that can help you with projects like electronics or CADing if you
Great.
ever want that help. So if you send your email to this chat, you didn't fill out the form, right? Did you fill out the form?
No.
The interest form?
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna fill that out now, so.
Okay, yeah, can you send your whatever email you want me to send it to on the chat?
Yeah.
Yep, and I'll send you an invite. Thank you.
Okay. Perfect.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you for coming. Have a good
Yeah,
night.
thanks for hosting.
Yeah.